All right, here are the tunes of a great show.
Okay.
It's time for Success Profiles Radio with your host, Brian K. Wright. Have you ever wondered if there's more to life than you're currently living? Then Success Profiles Radio is the program for you. Every week, we'll explore different aspects of success and how to apply them to your life. Guests will come from many different backgrounds, including expertise in leadership, business, relationships, careers, networking, health, overcoming adversity, and much more. Every show is a dose of inspiration. This is Success Profiles Radio. And now, here's your host, Brian K. Wright.
Hello and welcome to Success Profiles Radio. I'm your host, Brian K. Wright, and it's an absolute pleasure to be with you here today. I'm honored that you chose to spend part of your day with me here, and this is going to be a really fantastic show. I can't wait to share this with you. I do want to take a minute or two to share some things I've been learning and thinking about lately, and I usually do this every single week. Life is like a jigsaw puzzle, except you don't get to see the box first. And if you think about that, it's actually true. Oftentimes we go through life wondering why certain things happen to us or happen for us. With every situation we go through, it's like God giving us a puzzle piece. Early on, the pieces we are given may not go together. In fact, we may not think anything we see makes sense at all. But as we progress through life, some of the pieces begin to fit. And as we get closer to the end, we realize what the box might actually look like. When we reach that realization, it all becomes clear. And there's no point in comparing your journey to someone else's because that person wasn't given the same puzzle to start with that you were given. So really, there is no such thing as cheating off of someone else's paper in life, so to speak. But other people can give us the wisdom we need at the right moment. And even more importantly, God gives all of us wisdom that we need. All we have to do is simply ask for it. He gives wisdom very freely when you ask for it with a pure heart. In fact, King Solomon, with all of his riches, asked for wisdom first, and then all of the things that he had in life were given to him afterwards. So wisdom is more precious than wealth for sure. If you have not picked up my latest book on Amazon, it's called The Greatest Lessons I Learned from My Coach. And if you have a coach or are thinking about hiring a coach, this is a book you should pick up because I, along with a few other contributing authors, talked about the greatest lessons we all learn from our coaches. And the best way to learn is not just from your experience, but from the experience of other people around you. That's how you can multiply your learning exponentially. So once again, it's on Amazon. It's called The Greatest Lessons I Learned from My Coach. You can also download and follow us at Success Profiles Radio on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify, on Audible, on iHeartRadio. You can ask Alexa and Siri to play Success Profiles Radio, and lo and behold, the most recent episode will appear for you. So go ahead and listen and give us a follow. Give us a 5-star review if you think we've earned it, and I sure hope that you think we have. So this week, I'm not going to have a guest. It's going to be me and all of you. I haven't done this format in several months, and so solo show today. How about that? So this week, I'm going to share as many nuggets of wisdom as I can during this hour. And occasionally, I like doing solo shows like this where I can share a bunch of things that resonate with me and helped me on my journey, and hopefully they will help you on your journey as well. So let's get started. Number one book I enjoyed listening to last year on Audible was by James Altucher, and it's called Think Like a Billionaire. In this book, he interviewed 11 billionaires to gain their insights. One of my favorite interviews was with Sarah Blakely, and she invented Spanx from her apartment with only $5,000 and is now an occasional guest investor on Shark Tank. I had several big takeaways from that interview. First and foremost, don't be afraid to embarrass yourself because if you put yourself out there and it doesn't go as well as you want it to, the people who are hating on you or making fun of you aren't nearly as far along in life as you are anyway. The people who have achieved greatly won't laugh. They will applaud you for trying and they will give you a helping hand if you want them to, as long as you ask for it. So don't be afraid to embarrass yourself because really, honestly, failure isn't about the outcome. It's about not trying at all. And you're not going to get from 0 to 100 by not trying. So failure isn't about the outcome. You'll figure it out. There are a lot of ways to get to where you want to go. You just need to figure out which way is best for you. The second big takeaway I got from Sarah Blakely's interview was that She started selling what she had and she got the order and then figured out how to fulfill it. A lot of people, when they start businesses, they think they have to have the perfect website. They think they have to have their branding and their logo done. They think they have to have everything, all their systems set in place, the perfect script. And then they find out that the market doesn't even want what they were going to offer to start with. So she got the order and then figured out how to fulfill it. The path to cash is really what you need to think about when you're starting a brand new business. What is my fastest path to cash? James Malinchak always used to say this to me when I was coaching with him and when I would listen to him do talks. What is the fastest path to cash? Figure out what that is and then figure out how to fulfill the order, and you will be miles ahead. The third big takeaway I got from Sarah Blakely's interview was to hire your weaknesses as soon as you can afford it. A lot of people think, oh, I have to do it all myself. I can't afford to hire someone. Well, in some respects, you can't afford not to. If you know what your zone of genius is, let's say that you are really good at sales, you hate paperwork, you hate administrative stuff, you hate tech. Hire your weaknesses as soon as you can. In fact, the person I hired to be my assistant is really good at graphic design. I have no such skills in my arsenal at all. So she does a lot of things for me that either I cannot do or simply don't want to do. So hire your weaknesses as soon as you can afford it. And finally, the biggest takeaway I got from Sarah Blakely was that you don't have to have the most money or the most experience. You just have to care the most. Because honestly, the way things are in society, we work with companies, we deal with companies. They act like they don't care because they think you aren't going to leave them. Well, guess what? We have a lot of choices and there's a lot of competition out there. If you can prove that you care the most, you're going to get the benefit of the doubt a good share of the time. So that's takeaway number one was Think Like a Billionaire by James Altucher and how he drew all this knowledge out of Sarah Blakely in their interview together. Number two, nugget number two is my definition of genius. And for me, the art of making something look really effortless, making something difficult look really effortless is my definition of genius. You take a look at someone like Michael Jordan. He made slam dunks look easy, he made passing look easy. He made his teammates better around him. He made something very difficult look completely effortless. Another fantastic example of this is Gene Kelly. I love old classic Hollywood. He was in a movie called Summer Stock with Judy Garland. And what he did in that movie was he created what he called the newspaper dance. So he's in the barn, there's a piece of newspaper on the floor, and he stares at it, glances at it, and puts his foot and starts moving the newspaper around and develops a whole dance around this newspaper. It was really creative and he made it look so easy. My other favorite Gene Kelly scene is from Singing in the Rain, and it's the Good Morning scene with Donald O'Connor and Debbie Reynolds. They practiced a lot. You could tell they practiced a lot, but Gene Kelly developed the choreography for all of his moves and for all of his stars. And he just makes it look easy because he knows what moves they are good at. And so he tailors a routine to make them look like the star. He doesn't make it difficult on purpose, but he does what he choreographs something according to the skill set that he knows his dance partners have. So that's really awesome. And that's a really great way to think about business too, is if you know the strengths and weaknesses of the people that are working with you, put them in a place where they have the greatest chance to succeed. Gene Kelly did that. And by extension, he made everything that was difficult look exceedingly easy. Nugget number three. A year ago, I started writing down the night before what I wanted to accomplish today. And so things that I write down, I want to listen to Audible for at least 30 minutes a day. I want to get an hour's worth of walking in a day, not all at one time. And then I have my task list of the things that I want to do. Today, one of the things I want to do is to prepare for this show. And so I did. And I've got a couple of client projects that I'm going to be wrapping up shortly. I wrote down some to-do things relating to those projects. And I had my list of things that I needed to do. And so I had that set out the night before, or sometimes the morning of before I eat breakfast, or maybe shortly after I eat breakfast. That way I lay out my whole day. I know what I have to do. And then I set out and do it one at a time. And so organize your day. That way there are no real surprises. If you can get through most of the things you need to do today, you are in a very good place. Number four, there are temptations to compare yourself with others. Super successful people aren't any more successful or special than you are. They just figured out faster how to do things. And that is all. You can't compare someone's chapter 20 with your chapter 1 because they've probably been doing their thing for a very long time and they just figured it out first. They aren't any more special. They're not smarter. They're not more brilliant necessarily. They just figured out how to do their thing first. And so you learn from them as much as you can. Observe their journey, ask to talk to them. Even in some cases, you might have to pay for an hour of someone's time if you think that person can really help you, if they've far exceeded where you are. People will be willing to help you. So simply ask. The most successful people are not any more special. They just figured out how to do some things before you did, and that's really it. Number 5, do something every day in the pursuit of your goals. One of my favorite concepts is Jack Canfield's rule of 5. And so what he says is if you have a list of things that you want to accomplish, pick 5 action steps that you can take toward the progression toward your goal. 5 things every day. That might not sound like a lot, and some of those things might not be very good things. It might be call so and so, or it might be schedule a meeting with so and so. In fact, today I talked with a literary agent for the very first time to get some feedback on a book idea that I had. And as it turns out, the book idea that I had has been overdone. So I'm really glad I asked somebody who knows first. But she says, I really would love to represent a book about, and then she gave me the topic idea. And so now I'm marinating whether I want to write that book. And I shared that idea with a friend of mine. He says, oh, I would love to write a book on that topic. So I may be having a conversation with him about how we can do something together. But again, I have no idea how to reach publishers other than working with Morgan James Publishing, which I did one of my books, the Conversations with High Achievers book. But talking to this literary agent gave me a lot of great insight. So ask people who have been down that road before, and you will learn a lot. Number 6, sometimes the most productive thing you can do is to say no to something. In fact, you'll probably notice if you've listened to a bunch of my episodes, one of my favorite questions to ask toward the end is, how do you know what to say yes or no to? And the way you usually do that is if you know what your major definite purpose is, if you know what your goals are, anything that fits toward accomplishing those goals is an easy yes. Everything else is a hard no. In fact, I've had several very successful people on my show tell me when you're starting, you really have to say yes to a bunch of things to start with because you want to get some traction. And as you move along in your journey, you realize you don't have to say yes to everything. In fact, once you start reaching your goals and you become visible and everyone wants a piece of you, you have to start saying no to almost everything. And they basically have to prove that they are worth your time. So that's how you do it. Say yes to the things that resonate with you, say no to everything else, and don't be afraid of doing that. And with that, we are going to come back. Our break is coming up. This is Success Profiles Radio.
The mission is to motivate and inspire others to discover their unique talents and follow their dreams in life. This is Success Profiles Radio.
Have you ever thought about writing a book? Surveys show that 81% of people wish they could, but many never do. If you're one of those people, I can tell you why. You don't think you have time, you may not know how, or you might not believe you are a good enough writer. When you're working with an experienced coach, these reasons go away because I will help you every step of the way. If you want to know more about how to write a nonfiction book, whether it's business, self-help, or how-to, reach out to me at www.briankwright.com for more information. Once again, that's briankwright.com.
Welcome back to Success Profiles Radio. So many people live their lives wanting more than they currently have. And this show will clearly demonstrate the principles, if I can do it, you can do it. So let's get back to the show. This is Success Profiles Radio. And here again is your host, Brian K. Wright.
And we're back. This is Success Profiles Radio, and it's just me and all of you today. And I'm sharing some of my favorite nuggets of wisdom that I've been thinking about lately. And I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get through my entire list, and that's okay. I'll just share whatever resonates in the moment, and hopefully that means something to me, and it means something even more importantly to you. So we are at number 7 on my list of golden nuggets for this week. Number seven, take 100% responsibility for where you are in life. If you are experiencing some hardship right now, a lot of factors probably played into it, but ultimately, you did or said something that played a part. Identify the part you played and resolve to address it going forward. Maybe you don't have as much money right now as you want. Maybe you don't like the place you live. Maybe you don't like your job. Well, you said yes to all of those things, whether you realize it or not. So, blaming other people, blaming the economy, blaming the president, blaming your family, blaming your friends, blaming your coworkers, all of it is pointless because you are where you are because you said yes to all of it, whether you realize it or not. So take 100% responsibility for where you are in life. If you are experiencing something difficult right now, you ultimately did or said something. So resolve to figure out what that is and address it. It's never too late. Never, never, never too late to change where you are. Number eight, there's always something to be thankful for. In fact, I was reading something today where it's a book called Jesus Calling, and by Rhonda Young. I believe that's her name. And Jesus Calling, that's the name of the book. And one of the things that struck me was that when you have something difficult going on, you need to be grateful for all of it, even the really hard stuff, because if you can show gratitude even for the for the difficult things, you're going to get more wonderful things to start being thankful for. Consider Job in the Bible. He went through a lot. If you haven't read Job, do it. I mean, he went through a lot. He lost everything, and yet he never ever cursed God ever. In fact, he was multiplied blessings far above and beyond what he ever had at the end of the story. So always find something to be thankful for. In fact, I would recommend write down a list of 10, 15, or 20 things to be thankful for and review that list on a very regular basis because if you are focused on gratitude, you can't focus on complaining. Number nine, what do you do when difficult times hit you? Well, I'll share a great example. Firefighters run into the burning building, not away from it. If a firefighter ran away from a fire, that would be a really terrible firefighter. He or she wouldn't have their job very long. In fact, I've heard that when there's a big storm brewing, a buffalo will run into the storm and not away from it, which is really, really interesting. But when difficult times hit you, are you leaning into it? Are you running toward the storm? Are you resolving to deal with it? Or are you looking for an escape? The people who tend to be most successful face it head on. They figure out what their options are, they pick one, and very quickly take action. So figure out what to do when something's tough, make your plan, execute on that plan quickly, and it'll be over with before you know it. Number 10, the best way to get out of a bad state of mind is to focus on doing something for someone else. This is one thing that I love to do because if someone is talking to me about what they're going through, sometimes the thing they're going through is way worse than the thing that I'm going through. In fact, I had a friend one time, it was on a day where I lost my job, and he asked me how I was doing, and I very, very honestly said, I lost my job today. This was a long, long time ago. Then I said, so how are you? And he told me that he got a very bad diagnosis that day. And I said, oh, your day was way worse than mine. So it put things into perspective really, really quickly. And so what I did is I talked through that with him and helped him deal with that situation. And before long, I wasn't even focused on my bad situation at all. And of course, that situation resolved itself because I found another job and it didn't take very long. But it never feels good in that moment. But to get yourself out of a bad state of mind, focus on doing something for someone else. Number 11, when you are in survival mode instead of thrive mode, the questions you ask yourself are a lot different. Because when you're in survival mode, you're playing defense. You figure, how can I just make it through this day? How can I make it through tomorrow? How can I make enough money to pay this next bill that's due next week? But if you're in thrive mode, now you're thinking so much bigger. You're thinking, okay, how can I hit my goal of 20,000 this month, 30,000, 50,000, 100,000, whatever your goal happens to be. Now you're thinking very expansively. When you are in thrive mode, now you're asking yourself different questions and you're coming up with even better solutions. So think about thriving and not surviving, and that'll change your entire focus. Number 12, those who cannot keep small commitments won't help you make your big dreams come true. And that is so true. Because if you ask someone to do you a favor and it's a pretty small commitment and they can't or won't follow through, you can't trust them with something much, much bigger. In fact, sometimes I will test somebody with a smaller commitment first just to see how serious they are about actually helping me. In fact, sometimes when you're in a job, for example, sometimes you'll be trusted with some small tasks first so that your employer or your manager can see how well you handle that. And when you show them that you can handle that brilliantly in a timely manner without any incident, then you're gradually going to be trusted with bigger things and eventually you get promoted. And that's what happened to me in a number of companies that I used to work for is I was trusted with something small. I did a great job and then I was trusted with much bigger things. I got promoted. And in a couple of cases, I got a position created just for me based on the skills that I was able to show, even when I wasn't being paid to show those skills yet. So keep small commitments to be trusted with something bigger. Number 13, you earn the right to ask for something by being a giver first. Especially if you are trying to work with someone who has a following or has some influence, you're not going to get what you want by coming at someone and say, "Hey, can I get your autograph? Hey, can I," whatever your ask happens to be. Earn the right to ask for something by giving first. Hey, how can I help you promote this new book? This is sometimes what I do when I want someone fairly well known on my show. I notice that they have a book. And so I'll say, hey, I want to help you promote your book to my audience by bringing you on my show. And the conversation begins. And so I'm coming from a position of wanting to help. Yes, of course, I want that person on my show, but they have to have a reason for wanting to do the show. People will do media for their reasons and not yours. So if you want to work with someone who has a big following, give first. Number 14, don't base your decisions on the advice of those who don't have to deal with the consequences or results. This is so critical. I see people asking their friends, their family for advice on whether or not they should start a business, and they all know that they've never done a business before. And so, from their perspective, no, it's too risky. Well, why are you asking them? Why are you asking people who have never done the thing that you want to do? Of course, they're going to say no. Instead, you should be asking for people who have done the thing before. And not only will they encourage you to do it, but they will also probably offer you some advice on some of the roadblocks you might expect. They might ask you some guiding questions to find out how much you've thought this through. That's infinitely more valuable. So don't base your decisions on the advice of the people who don't have to deal with the fallout. That's just ridiculous. Don't do it. Number 15, you are not required to explain your journey to someone who's not committed to understanding it. That's very similar to what I mentioned in the last nugget I talked about, because if you are an entrepreneur and you are dealing with people in your life who are not entrepreneurs, they don't understand why you don't just shut off at 5 o'clock, because your customers aren't necessarily going to shut off at 5 o'clock. If you are operating a service based business, if your customers are people who work for a living, chances are they're going to be available only at night or on the weekends. If you are dealing with people in a different time zone, for let's say, for example, if you're in the United States and you're dealing with someone in Russia or France or the UK, they're going to be 6, 7, 8, 9 hours ahead of you. You might have to work really late or really early to accommodate their schedule as well. So you're not going to explain your journey. In fact, I have a friend I talk to on Facebook, and he's not really an entrepreneur, and I am, and he makes fun of me for quote unquote working all the time. Well, I'm building something, so I don't need to explain every part of my journey to this individual. We're really good friends, but I don't feel the need to explain everything I'm doing. Number 16, focus is a superpower. When you can learn to do fewer things and be excellent at them, you will surpass those who try to do everything. I'll tell you what, trying to do everything at once is not a badge of honor. It's not the flex that you think that it is. In fact, if you can do few things really, really well at a world class level, you are going to be miles ahead, because the people who are really well known are usually good at the one thing. Again, I'll go back to Michael Jordan. I mean, he was a really great athlete. He played more than one sport in high school, but basketball was his ticket. And when he retired from basketball the first time to play baseball, he was okay, but not great. He went back to basketball, and that's where he thrived again. He won his second three-peat. So he won 6 titles, three at a time, retired for 2 seasons, three at a time, and then he retired for the second time. So focus on the thing that you are really, really good at. Be world class at it. That's how you get remembered. That's how you build your legacy. Number 17, be careful to who you open up to. Only if you actually care, the rest are simply curious. And here's my litmus test. If someone isn't a part of your problem and they are not a part of your solution, it's none of their business. The rest of it is just gossip. In fact, some people actually want you to fail. They want you to confide in them so that they can gossip about you to other people. And by the way, if someone will gossip to you, they will also gossip about you. So be really aware. Have your antennas all the way up when you're talking to some people in your life. If they will gossip about other people, they will probably gossip about you too. So be very judicious about what you share. Number 18, be very specific about your goals. Know exactly what you want to do and by when. The reason this is important is, let's take a travel agent, for example. You call a travel agent to book your vacation. Great, where do you want to go? I don't know. When do you want to leave? I'm not sure. When do you want to come back? I haven't thought about it. Well, that's pretty useless to a travel agent. Know where you want to go, how you want to get there, how long you want to stay, when you want to come home. That's the stuff that travel agents need to book your trip. So, setting a goal is the exact same way. If you're not specific about your goals, you can't be mad at the result that you get. If you tell someone you want to make more money and that someone gives you $1, you technically got exactly what you asked for, right? Well, no, I meant I want more than $1. Great. How much do you want to make? Now you have to be more specific. Number 19, make a list of the most significant wins you've had in your life. Split your life into 10-year increments if it's easier to do your list. You are winning a lot more than you think you are. So what were your wins from 0 to 10? Well, I learned how to walk, I learned how to talk, I learned how to count to 10, I learned my colors, I learned how to play nice with others. Now, you might think some of those are really soft accomplishments, but I'll tell you what, some people don't ever get to learn how to walk. Some people don't ever get to learn how to talk. Some people are learning disabled and they never learn how to spell or count. Don't take your small blessings for granted. These are all wins. Then split your life into the next decade, 10 to 20. What did you learn from 10 to 20? Well, you graduated from high school, you learned how to study, you learned how to go on a date. Maybe you learned how to dance. Maybe you learned how to sing. Maybe you learned how to play an instrument if you were in high school band or chorus. You learned a lot of things. Maybe you learned your parents' business and maybe you worked for them during the summer. You learned how to make money. You learned how to spend money responsibly. You learned how to save for college or your business or whatever you wanted to buy that was on your heart. You learned things. In your 20s, you learned a whole bunch of other things. Write all those things down. In fact, I would challenge you to come up with 100 of those things. In fact, a good friend of mine and I did 2 live videos where we each talked about our 100 greatest wins in life up to that point. And it really forced us to think about how much winning we actually do. Number 20, if you become really good at something you don't want to do, chances are you're going to be asked to do a whole lot more of it. When I was younger, and I had a problem finding a job after I was done teaching because I got burned out. I ended up working in call centers and I learned a lot. I learned that it's not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, but I learned how to talk to people. I learned how to sell. I learned how to do customer service. I learned how to talk to different types of people. I learned how to meet people where they actually are instead of trying to hard sell the thing that I'm trying to get them to do because what I was offering wasn't for everybody. But I didn't always enjoy it, but I became good at it. And so I kept getting hired for those kinds of jobs because you're good at it. If you are good at something you don't want to do, people are just going to keep asking you to do a lot more of it. So don't know what you want, know who you are, figure out what's going to make you happy, and resolve to find that, whether it's working for someone else, whether it's starting your own business, but you will figure it out. And if you take some time to do that, you will. We will come right back after the break. This is Success Profiles Radio. Please stay with us. Don't go away. We will be right back after the break.
The mission is to motivate and inspire others to discover their unique talents and follow their dreams in life. This is Success Profiles Radio.
If you are in business, what is the number one thing that stops revenue growth? Not having enough leads. Data is the new gold rush. With phone sites, that is never an issue. You can generate as many leads as you want without paying a lead broker. With phone sites, you can build a website or sales funnel from your mobile device in 5 minutes or less without any technical skills or without downloading an app. It's easy and you have nothing to lose. Try it for free for 14 days at phonesites.com/Brian. Once again, that's phonesites.com/Brian.
Welcome back to Success Profiles Radio. So many people live their lives wanting more than they currently have. And this show will clearly demonstrate the principles: if I can do it, you can do it. So let's get back to the show. This is Success Profiles Radio. And here again is your host, Brian K. Wright.
And we are back. This is Success Profiles Radio. And this week it's just me and all of you. And I'm sharing some of my favorite golden nuggets of things that I've been learning and thinking about since the last time I did a show just like this. And if you have not subscribed to Ultimate Achievers Magazine, you can go to ultimateachieversmagazine.com. The most recent issue came out just a week or two ago, and we're working on July. So if you go to ultimateachieversmagazine.com, you can pick your subscription option. It's $1 for 7 days, and you can pick monthly, annual, or unlimited, where you pay only once and never again. And you can read every single issue that's there, along with all the special issues and all the content. In fact, if you read one issue a week, it would take you almost 2 years to read everything. So go ahead and do that. Once again, that's ultimateachieversmagazine.com. Okay, we are at nugget number 21. Let's just say that you do have a business. Jay Abraham is someone that I love listening to about building a business and generating business. So let's say you have a business. One of his greatest questions is to think about what products or services go with yours, go before yours, or go after yours. Those companies would be great partners for you. So what am I talking about? Let's say that you are a flower shop. Let's say you own a flower shop. Who else could you partner with? Think about what kinds of occasions people need flowers for. They might need flowers for weddings and funerals. So let's just say that you are wanting to tap into the wedding market. Who else taps into the wedding market? Caterers, event venues, bridal shops, limo companies, travel agencies, videographers, photographers. I think you know where I'm going. So if you are a flower shop, you should have partnerships with as many people in those other industries, those other niches as possible. Because if you had a relationship with all of them and you all agreed to refer business to each other, you could basically steer people to working with all of you. And you could offer an incentive. You could offer, let's say, 10% off or 20% off or a free something, whatever. If you gave your card to a caterer and the caterer referred business to you, you will give that person or that other business a discount, and the same vice versa. So establish affiliate partnerships with other businesses that are catering to the same audience that you are. It's a brilliant idea. Number 22, how can I turn my annual income into monthly income? That's a very interesting question. If you're running a business, you have a lot more control over that. Even if you are not running your own business, but you are generating revenue for your company, you might practice intrapreneurship. So ask your manager, ask the owner of the company you're working with, how can I help generate more money for this business? And if I can generate more business above and beyond what we are already generating, ask for a small cut. See if they say yes. It never hurts to ask. You might think, oh, they'll shoot that down. You might actually be surprised. If you are working for someone who's really forward thinking, think about asking a question like that. So if you are an entrepreneur and you have your own business, think about offering products or services that either A, everyone wants, which means you're marketing to the masses, or B, you're offering products and services that maybe only high earners want. You're offering something very exclusive, maybe something high ticket, and I'll tell you what, the people that pay more money, they're usually better customers anyway, for the most part. They're not gonna they're not gonna be tick-tacky about every single little thing most of the time. So figure out who your audience is and figure out a way to offer something that people really, really want. Another thing you can do to raise your income is to hire a team. You don't have to do everything yourself. And as I alluded to earlier, source out the things that you're not good at, and by extension, hire people who actually are really good at the things that you aren't good at or the things that you don't want to do. Maybe you're not great at marketing. Find someone who is, hire someone who is. That's a great place because if you don't have leads, you have nothing. Another thing you can do is to offer things that require monthly or annual continuity. I had Scott Duffy on my show. He's been on my show several times, but when we were talking about valuing your business in case you want to sell it someday, he said that businesses that have some form of recurring income are 5 times more valuable than businesses that rely on a one off sale. That blew my mind. And so I started thinking about all the different ways that I make money in my companies. And I was astounded to find that only one of those things was based on recurring revenue. So, guess what? I started thinking about how can I make recurring revenue doing other things. And so that's really important. You can make more money by doing the same amount of work. For example, my magazine is a recurring revenue stream. I do the same amount of work every month, but if more people are reading it and if more people are subscribing it, I make more money. And by extension, the people who are reading and subscribing are getting a lot of value, and I get to build my community and I get to establish great relationships with my readers and my writers and my audience. So that's awesome. Another thing you can do is automate as much as you possibly can. If you can systematize things where you are not absolutely needed, and of course, AI is really huge. I don't know a ton about AI, but I have people in my circle who know a lot about AI. So guess who I tap into for advice on those things? The people that know. Another thing you can do is make offers one to many instead of one to one. If you're offering one to one coaching, you are probably leaving a lot of money on the table. And if you are one to one coaching, you better be charging a lot because your time is a commodity that you cannot get back. You can always make more money, but you cannot make more time. So if you want to help a lot of people, figure out how to help people in a group setting. Group coaching is a great way of doing that. Speaking to large audiences, even if it's a small audience of 10 or 15 or 20 or 50, you still are selling one to many, and it's a whole lot better than one to one. So what can you do? You can do webinars, you can speak to audiences, you can write a book that contains a call to action so that when people get done reading your book, they can go to your website, they can go to your free offer, they can get to your calendar to hire you, to talk to you, whatever it is, whatever that call to action is. So make offerings one to many instead of one to one. Number 23, I recently started listening to a book by Keith Cunningham called The Road Less Stupid. Near the beginning of this book, he asked a really impactful question. If you could unwind your 3 biggest financial mistakes, how much extra money would you have right now? I was previewing this book on Audible, and as soon as he said that, I hit the purchase button. I thought, oh, that one hit me over the head really hard. I don't even want to say what my number is. But if you asked most people to unwind their 3 biggest financial mistakes, it's probably at least 6 figures that they would have more of right now. And that's not even counting the opportunity cost of what you could have done with that money instead. But just for now, how much extra money would you have? And I would really encourage you to think about that. And as I continued listening to this book, and once again, it's called The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham, I realized that the premise of the book is that the best way to achieve wealth is to stop doing stupid things. A lot of books out there tell you what you should do. Not a lot of books tell you what not to do anymore. And that's what Keith Cunningham talks about in his book, The Road Less Stupid. You build wealth by doing fewer stupid things than other people. And it's definitely an idea worth thinking about. Number 24, it's not just what you're willing to do with your goals, it's about what you are willing to give up. Are you willing to give up going out to the bar? Are you willing to give up pointless conversations with people who are really not helping you advance your journey? Are you willing to give up scrolling on social media mindlessly for hours at a time? Because I'll tell you what, I had a guest one time whose coach said you should do a time audit. Every 15 minutes, write down, what am I doing right now? You might be appalled at how much time you waste in your day if you do an honest time audit. Now, I'll tell you, probably for the first week or two, you will be on your best behavior because you do not want to admit, I scrolled social media for 4 blocks of 15 minutes in a row. That's a whole hour. But if you do a time audit, honestly assess how you're using your time and then resolve to do something more productive, you will get so much done because studies have shown that when you are working for someone in the corporate environment, they're supposed to be at work for 8 hours a day, but they actually, I think Brian Tracy might have cited a study where the average person at a job 8 hours a day only does something productive for 37 minutes of the day. That was appalling to me. Think about this. If you own your own company or you're a manager of a company and you want to have a meeting with your team every day or twice a day or whatever it is, think about this. If your meeting is in the middle of the day, and let's say that you are running a sales team. Well, if your meeting is at 1 o'clock, some people don't want to hop on their next call at 12:55 because they're afraid they'll miss the meeting, so they'll stop 5 minutes early. The people who are on a call when 1 o'clock hits, they're going to finish their call and then they're going to show up for the meeting 5 minutes late. And a lot of managers don't start their meeting until everyone is there. And so, how much time is being wasted? Well, the time that is wasted by the people who didn't make another call, the time that's wasted for the people you had to wait for who were on a call, and then after the meeting's over with, you're going to waste more time times every single person because they're going to go to the bathroom, they're going to get their coffee, they're going to catch up with someone before they hop back on the phones again. And it's probably 10, 15 minutes before everyone's on the phone. So collectively, you've probably wasted a good 15 or 20 hours by having your meeting in the middle of the day when honestly it could have been an email. How many sales could you have lost with 20 more hours of productive time? You don't need a meeting every single day. You really don't. So give up the things that aren't productive. That's such a huge point. Number 25, the best part of going to high level events is networking and mastermind breakout sessions. Now, don't get me wrong. I go to events because of the speakers who are there, and sometimes I go because I want to meet the speakers and invite them to collaborate with me by being on my show or whatever else I have going on. But I tend to get even greater value by meeting the people who are attending. And if it is the kind of event where there are mastermind breakout sessions, you get into a group of 15 or 20 people and everyone has a chance to share what's going on and you get the collective wisdom of everybody in the group. That is sometimes way more valuable than what the speaker said on stage. So go to live events, go to high level events, and you're going to get in rooms with people who are doing amazing things and you have a chance to rub shoulders and learn from them. Number 26. When faced with two relatively equal choices, do the thing that makes the better story. And I think I've shared this example on my show before. After season 1 of American Idol, Anderson Cooper interviewed Simon Cowell on 60 Minutes. And so Simon Cowell was just becoming famous in America, and Anderson Cooper asked him, "Have you ever been asked to judge something really unusual?" And Simon Cowell was very honest and transparent and said a newlywed couple approached him and asked him to critique their lovemaking. Now, obviously, he said no, but then he said, in retrospect, I probably should have said yes. They offered him $10,000, by the way. He said, in retrospect, I should have said yes, not because I needed the money, but because this would have been a much more interesting story to tell. And so, if you're given two equal options, do whatever is more interesting. It makes you more fun to talk to, it makes you interesting, and it makes you a better conversationalist, if nothing else. Number 27. It's great to have clients who pay you, but it's also very important that your clients are a good fit for you energetically. Your sanity and peace of mind shouldn't be for sale. In fact, I have sometimes taken clients that I shouldn't have taken because they had money and because I needed it. And I hated every minute of those experiences. In fact, in most of those cases, I end up firing the client and giving them their money back because I just couldn't take it anymore. My sanity and my peace of mind are not for sale. And so, in the course of talking to someone before I decide to let them hire me, there are people where I've actually steered them towards something else. And I'm happier for it. You do not need to work with everyone who waves their magic cash in front of you because your sanity and your peace of mind shouldn't be for sale. Number 28, if you aren't experiencing the cash flow you want, you probably aren't making enough offers. So, what can you offer to your audience today? And who are you going to make that offer to? In fact, I had a coaching situation with my coach one time, and I said, I have an income goal this month, and I'm 4 days away and I am nowhere close. What should I do? He said, make an offer. Oh, why didn't I think of this? And so I figured out what my offer was going to be with his input. And uh, we were both in a mastermind, a high level mastermind. And so I made my offer, and that first day I made my goal, and I ended up making probably twice my monthly goal in the next 4 days. So make an offer to your audience. Figure out what that offer is going to be. Make sure it's the right audience. Make sure it's the right network. Make sure that it's something that people need, and you are well on your way. We are coming up against our final break. And so I'll just say one more thing before we go. Number 29, activate your old client base and ask them to buy something else from you again. Grant Cardone talks about this in the book, If You're Not First, You're Last. If they had a great experience working with you before, it should be a slam dunk that they should be willing to work with you again. So they may buy the same thing from you again. They may buy something that is complementary to the thing they bought from you the first time. So let's say in my case, I help people write their books. Maybe what I might want to do is to offer them a paid magazine feature. Maybe I might want to offer to connect them to PR. I might ask them if they want to buy more copies of the book. I can make that connection. So what can you get your clients to buy from you again? It might be the same thing you offered. It might be something completely different, but if they had a great experience with you before, you should be able to do it. So ask people to buy from you again. And we are coming back after the break. This is Success Profiles Radio.
The mission is to motivate and inspire others to discover their unique talents and follow their dreams in life. This is Success Profiles Radio.
Have you ever thought about writing a book? Surveys show that 81% of people wish they could, but many never do. If you're one of those people, I can tell you why. You don't think you have time, you may not know how, or you might not believe you are a good enough writer. When you're working with an experienced coach, these reasons go away because I will help you every step of the way. If you want to know more about how to write a nonfiction book, whether it's business, self-help, or how-to, reach out to me at www.briankwright.com for more information. Once again, that's briankwright.com.
Welcome back to Success Profiles Radio. So many people live their lives wanting more than they currently have. And this show will clearly demonstrate the principles, if I can do it, you can do it. So let's get back to the show. This is Success Profiles Radio. And here again is your host, Brian K. Wright.
And we're back. Down the stretch we come. This is Success Profiles Radio. It's just me and all of you this week. And as you just heard in the commercial, if you are thinking about writing a book, whether you want it done for you in terms of having a ghostwriter, or whether you want me to work with you in terms of coaching you through ideas on what your book needs to look like, if you want help with editing, if you want help with publishing, I can help you with all of that. You can go to callwithbrian.com and set up a time on my calendar, and I'd be very glad to talk to you about that. So we are going through the most impactful things that I've been thinking and learning in the last few weeks. And here's number 30, hire the right coach. I frequently ask my guests on this show about their criteria for hiring the right coach. And the thing that tends to come up most often is hire someone who has been there and done that and is still doing it. Because if you are working with someone who's just simply been there and done that and they're not still doing it, you might be beautifully prepared for a world that may no longer exist. So make sure that the person you're hiring is actually still actively working toward the thing that you want to do, and they are actively succeeding in the endeavor that you are wanting to learn more about. Number 31, feed your mind positivity daily. In fact, I mentioned earlier in the show that I listen to Audible at least 30 minutes a day. I've got a bunch of books in my Audible library that I'm either listening to or haven't started yet, and I have 0 credits at the moment, but I'm going to be buying more credits shortly because I'm always looking to feed my mind. Number 32, have one inspiring conversation every single day with someone who gets you going. In fact, one of my very first guests, it was probably in the first year or two, said something at the very end of the show. And I said, what are your final thoughts? And he said, have an inspiring conversation with someone every single day. And that has stuck with me. So very, very impactful advice. Number 33, focus on what's good. Let's just say that you've got a bunch of things going on in your life, as we all do. Let's just say you have 100 things in your life and only four of them are terrible. What do we normally tend to gravitate to? The four things that are wrong. How about focusing on the 96 things that are actually right? You have a place to live. You have food to eat. You have friends and family who love you. And I hope all these things are true for you. You are making money and sustaining yourself somehow. You have plans to do fun and interesting things this summer. But all of those are wonderful things. Don't focus on the four things out of 100 that might be wrong. Focus on all the things that are going right. Getting your mind right at the beginning of the day and throughout the day is so absolutely critical. Number 34, have big goals that scare you. Focus on how you can accomplish something. Think about who you need to know, the resources you need to have in your corner. So if you have a goal and you've identified someone who has achieved that goal, reach out to them. Find out how they did it. Number 35, and I listened to this actually today. One of the books I'm listening to right now is Think and Grow Rich. And one of the things that struck me is that you might be rejected many, many, many times before you hear the one yes that changes your entire life. Don't be afraid to fail. Be afraid of not trying. Because really honestly, and if you ever watch Shark Tank, Mark Cuban has said this to a lot of the people who are trying to get an investment deal. You may have failed at a lot of businesses, but you only need to get it right one time. Getting it right once will set you up for life. So if you keep hearing no, if you keep in your estimation failing at everything you think you're trying, just remember you only have to be right one time because that could change your life. Keep going and do not ever, ever give up. Number 36, when you surround yourself with the right people, amazing things can happen. The mindset shift, the connections, the deals that can get made can be life changing. Ask yourself where you want to be in 5 years. And I'll share a story that Brian Tracy tends to share a lot if you listen to any of his books or audios. He mentions that when he used to consult businesses and do strategic planning with them, the biggest question he asks his clients is, where do you want to be 5 years from now? And he asks this room of management, this room of leaders, as you look around at your company, which employees are here when you fulfill the goals that you have in the next 5 years or less? And he asks those people to write the names down of the employees that they believe will still be here to help them achieve the goals. Then he asked, which of your employees will not be here when you achieve your goals? And then he went for the kill. He asked, why are those people still here? Ouch. We should all be a bit brutal in our assessment of those we choose to be around, because if the majority of people you're hanging around with can't or won't help you get to where you need to be, it's time to make an assessment of who's in your circle. Surround yourself with people who will elevate you, not with the people who will drag you down. 37, have extremely high standards for yourself. A long time ago, I taught at a 2-year business college when I lived in Lincoln, Nebraska, and one of the courses I taught was public speaking. And at the beginning of one particular term, a student decided to ask me on day one, or tell me in front of everyone on day one, that he heard that I was an easy grader. Side note, never, ever, ever say that to an instructor. It's very insulting. So I paused for a second. I told the class, well, I don't think that's true, because if you show up every day and do all the assigned work, you'll probably get at least a C. And maybe that's all this particular student wanted. But then I added, if your standards are higher than mine, you'll have a chance to get an A. I had never said that to a class before, and I didn't say it at any time after, but I wanted them to commit to excellence. I didn't specify what those higher standards were. I preferred to let their imaginations run wild, and it worked. In a typical group of 20 students, maybe 4 or 5 of them would get an A in my class, but this class had at least 8 people earn an A. There might have been 9, but it was by far the best group I ever taught. And not every class would have received that message equally, but I wanted this group to elevate what they were willing to accept for themselves. All these years later, I still remember that group having higher standards than everyone else will do that. Number 38, and this one I think is really, really awesome. You have not yet met all the people who are going to love you yet. You haven't met all the people in your life who are going to love you. You might think that the people in your life, that's who your crowd is going to be, but that's not necessarily true. When I was in my teens, I ran around with my friends from high school. I thought I would be seeing some of them pretty regularly. That has turned out not to be true. In fact, I went back to my 40-year class reunion last summer. I saw some people I hadn't seen since high school. There were some people who didn't show up that I still haven't seen since high school. I went off to college. I thought, well, I'll probably be in touch with a lot of these people. The circle of people from college that I still stay in touch with is really small, but there are a few. I had best friends in my 30s. I had best friends in my 40s and so on. But you know what? There are people in my life right now who might not be with me 10 years from now. And some of the people that I actually might end up being very close to are people that aren't in my life yet, but they might be 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So don't necessarily think that everyone who's currently in your circle is going to be with you. Hopefully a lot of them will be, but there's a pretty good chance that not all the people that are going to love you are people that you currently know. Number 39. Don't expect to be highly compensated for something anyone can do. Specialization beats generalization every time. There's a reason why brain surgeons earn more than general practitioners. There are reasons why lawyers make a lot more than slinging burgers at McDonald's. And people who are demanding to make $20 an hour for something that really, honestly, and I'm not minimizing working at McDonald's, don't get me wrong, but that's a pretty low entry job. And you're not going to make a lot of money doing an entry level job that most people can do. The higher income is reserved for people who make the greatest impact, the people who have the most specialized knowledge. If you read Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill talks about how specialized knowledge is always going to trump generalization. Number 40, treat everyone like they are $1 million account. Some of them might be someday. A lot of people, when they sell something, they tend to think about that one transaction and that is it. But if you get to work with people over and over and over again, the lifetime value of that customer might actually be quite a lot. And if you are working with high level contracts, if you are working with high dollar purchases, and that entity, that organization, that customer works with you over and over and over again, that could be $1 million account. In fact, some of you might actually be selling things that are 7-figure sales. So treat people in the beginning like they could be worth $1 million to you later, because some of them actually might be. And treat people like people. Don't treat them like dollar signs, because people see through that. They hate it. They hate it. They hate it. They hate it. Number 41, people will usually tell you how to sell them. Here's an example. There's someone that I worked with a long time ago, and he ended up hiring me to write his book. And I told him how much it was, and we somehow got on the subject of credit cards. He loved his Amex card. He loved the points program. So you can see where I'm going with this. People tell you how to sell them, right? And so at one point we talked about maybe doing a multi-pay option, and I was okay with that with this particular client. We talked about some more ideas behind his book. And when we started to wind down, I said, so are you ready to get started? He's like, yeah. And I said, you know what? You can earn all those Amex points right away if you just pay in full right now. And he said, okay. People tell you how to sell them. And that was a sale that came together very, very easily. And we went on to write a brilliant book together. And I was so happy and grateful for that experience. And finally, number 43, support your friends and their businesses by not asking for discount for their services. Pay full price. If you end up paying less than full price, let it be their idea and not yours, but don't feel like you are entitled to the friend or family discount, because you know what? If everyone asks for the friend and family discount, they're going to refer other people who are also going to expect the friend and family discount, even though you don't know them, and it causes a very awkward situation. So don't do that. I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been a fun episode for me. I hope you enjoyed some of the wisdom that I was able to help impart to you based on what I've learned myself. And I hope you all come back next week. This has been Success Profiles Radio. Join us at Monday at 6 o'clock Eastern next week. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you for being a part of Success Profiles Radio with your host, Brian K. Wright. Each week, we'll explore different aspects of success and how to apply them to your life. We'll have guests that will come from many different backgrounds, including expertise in leadership, business, relationships, careers, networking, health, overcoming adversity, and much more. For more on Brian and the show, check out his website, briankwright.com. If you've ever wondered if there's more to life than you're currently living, then Success Profiles Radio is the program for you. Join us again next week for more Success Profiles Radio with your host, Brian K. Wright.